Can't you get free from the jail inside? You sold your own mind for a place to hide. Break your slave chains and cast them aside. Freedom's knocking at your door.
Hello there, I'm Madalyn OHair, back again with the American Atheist Forum.
And I'm John Murray, the president of American Atheists, and we have with us tonight in the middle Dr. Arthur Frederick Ide from Dallas, Texas, our resident theologian expert who is with us from time to time.
I would like to tell you tonight about the long and bitter battle that American Atheists has had with the great state of Texas, because this state of Texas for many, many years refused to permit anybody to be employed by the state of Texas or appointed in any public office unless they swore that they believed in God. We attempted to fight that, and we finally did get rid of it, but we still have another article in the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the state of Texas, in which an official oath is made necessary for every person who is either elected or appointed. And that official oath under Article 16 is, I, so-and-so, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of a judge of the state of Texas, so help me God. They must call upon God in order to execute the duties of their office. Well, that's well and good. If adults want to do that, we think that it's unconstitutional, and we have challenged that. But what do we do when we get down to the point that you or I, an ordinary citizen, can be called for jury duty? And when the ordinary citizen is called for jury duty, they are told that you must call upon God for help to answer questions even related to whether or not you have the capacity to be a juror, much less getting put into the jury box, because when you're put into the jury box, you are then told that you must seek God's help. So help me God, in order to make a determination on the case. American Atheist has been fighting this for 20 years, and one would think that the great state of Texas would understand we're not going to give up. Sooner or later, we are going to get rid of this. I don't know exactly how it's going to be done, but we are persevering. We have tried to sue the state of Texas. We have tried to sue the county of Travis. We have tried to sue the city. We have taken our cases into federal courts. We have done everything. And in this very long struggle, we have been fighting with two particular Texas rules of procedure. And John, will you read those two? Texas Rule of Civil Procedure 226 and 236.
That's right. The first one, which is Rule 226, is the oath to the jury panel. And for those of you that might never have served on a jury, there is a panel that is a group of prospective people from which the jury is chosen, that are first gathered together, and depending on the size of your municipality or the size of your county, this can be anywhere from 20 people to 200 or 300 in the room if you're in a very big city or a very big county, and that's the jury panel. And an oath is first given to all of these people in the room, and then if you are selected from among those people to be on an actual jury, you get a second oath. And that's the differentiation between these two. So, the oath, the code states, oath to jury panel. Before the parties or their attorneys begin the examination of the jurors whose names have thus been listed, the jurors shall be sworn by the court or under its direction as follows, quote, you and each of you do solemnly swear that you will true answers give to all questions propounded to you concerning your qualifications as a juror, so help you God, period, end quote. Now that's before you're questioned as to whether or not you're going to be picked out to be a juror. Then the second section is section 236, which is oath to the jury, if you're actually picked to be a juror. The jury shall be sworn in by the court or under its direction in substance as follows, quote, You and each of you do solemnly swear that in all cases between parties which shall be to you submitted, you will a true verdict render according to the law, as it may be given you in a charge by the court, and to the evidence submitted to you under the rulings of the court, so help you God, period, end quotes. And those are the two oaths that we are concerned about. The reason, particularly among other reasons, that we are concerned about those is in that Rule 226A it states that in part of the oral instructions of a judge in having a jury trial and swearing in the juries, he must tell the jurors after they have taken one or both of these oaths, quote, "Ladies and gentlemen, by the oath which you take as jurors, you become officials of this court and active participants in the public administration of justice." So we feel, of course, that it's unconstitutional to deny persons such as ourselves, atheists, the right to become officials of the court as citizens, duly summoned for jury service, because we cannot take either one of those oaths, so we are excluded from that position that other citizens are allowed to serve in. And that is the legal question squarely put that we have with, and the legal quarrel that we have with the state of Texas, both in the state and the federal courts.
Now, one of the things that has really discouraged us is the fact that both the federal courts and the Federal Court of Appeal, the Fifth Federal Circuit Court of Appeals in New Orleans, Louisiana, and the great state of Texas have lied. The justices have lied, and the attorneys for the state of Texas have lied, because they said that there is no such thing as this order by the Supreme Court of Texas, which John just read, that by the oath which you take, you become officials of this court. The federal district court says that there is no such admonition. The state of Texas, the attorneys for the state of Texas, the attorney general, everybody looking directly at this says that there is no such thing as the Supreme Court saying, by the oath which you take, you become officials of this court. Well, we're tired of the deceit, the lies, the stalling, everything that has been connected with this. So when a new chapter came up recently in this whole affair, and I have been called in for jury duty, at least 8 times. My son has been called in several times. My granddaughter has been called in. Members of American Atheists have been called into court at least 75 times during the time that we've had this fight. The vice president of American Atheists was called in, and this year 2 different members of the staff of American Atheists were required to appear in court, and 4 members of American Atheists who live in the community here were required to appear in court for jury duty.
I want to interject that this is peculiar because, as you may or may not know, with whatever state you live in where you may be watching this program, even if it's not Texas, that normally a person usually gets called once or twice in their lifetime as for jury service, because it's just the how many people there are in the population versus how many few court juries there are just on statistical average, once or twice in your life you'll get the chance to be called for jury service. And here the Murray OHair family is called multiple times within a couple-year period, or we have suddenly people on the staff of the American Atheist Center suddenly being called one by one, etc. And we feel that that is also part of harassment of the state of Texas with regard to us. We have been told by one or more of the judges of Travis County, Austin, Texas, that essentially they can call anybody anytime they want, any number of times they want for jury service, and that, well, they can just call us every week if they think that they want to.
And they make a mockery of this idea of random selection, because I have looked straight into the eyes of one of the prosecuting attorneys who was attempting to do something in relationship to what I was doing, and he looked at me and he said, "Do you want called up tomorrow? I'll see that you are called up, because we can pick you out of the wheel just like that." So we have decided recently that what we needed to do was buy our own camera, because in addition to coming to a studio in order to tape these forums, we quite frequently are involved in news media events. So we decided we would go ahead and purchase our own camera. And just after we had done so, we did this about a month ago, this next incident came up. And therefore we decided that what we would do would be to film this on location with our own camera so that we would have a record of this forever. Well, then when it was decided that we would come down and do this film tonight, we said, well, why not roll in that part of it? And this is our first experiment with on-location news. So if you will stand by for just a couple of seconds, you will see coming up now for your enjoyment the event which has precipitated some more action.
Okay, she's doing all right.
Turn on the air conditioner.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Just don't make the swivel.
Yeah, once you get the light on.
This is November 26th, 1990.
The state of Texas are such that in order to serve on any jury, criminal or civil, it's necessary for a person to state that they do have a belief in God and that they call upon God for help with their ability to serve and ability to render a judgment. I'm an atheist. I don't have any such belief. There is no God. This is childish and immature. It is also catering to the Judeo-Christian religion, which is dominant in our country, and which, as far as I'm concerned, is basically insane. The governor of the state of Texas knows that this requirement is unconstitutional. The justices of the Supreme Court of the state of Texas know it's unconstitutional. Everybody from Dr. Alan Wright down at the University of Texas Law School knows that it's unconstitutional. The Fifth Circuit judges, all of them, know it's unconstitutional. And still they persist in seeing to it that the first family of atheism must accept a God idea. My daughter was put in jail for not swearing, so help me God, when she was called to jury duty. My son was thrown out of the jury duty room, at the courtroom. Over the last 20 years, we have had at least 70 or 75 persons go down to the Travis County courts, and each instance they have been treated differently, or they have been segregated, or they have been thrown out of the system. Recently, we have had a decision by the Fifth Federal Circuit Court of Appeals in New Orleans, Louisiana. And I can't believe this, because that Fifth Federal Circuit Court of Appeals said that no one has a constitutional right or a vested interest to serve on the jury. And I would like to know how in the hell any person in the United States can possibly have a jury trial if they themselves cannot serve on the jury when they are called when another person is before them. So as far as I'm concerned, I feel that this is a piece of junk, that this does not represent anything that American citizenry represents, and consequently, I am prepared to burn the summons that I have received. This is a summons to appear in front of Wilford Flowers tomorrow morning, November the 27th at 8 a.m. And the jury requires that I am supposed to reveal my religious preference. This is something nobody in the United States is required to reveal except Travis County jurors. And then when I get in there, I am supposed to follow Texas Rules of Civil and Criminal Procedures, number 226 and 236, in which I call upon God to help me as a juror. And here's what I think about all of that. I'm using some matches from the American Atheist Convention. I think that that's appropriate. Now, if I can manage to do this, probably I'll drop it or fumble it somehow, but we'll try. This is what I think of the jury summons of the state of Texas. And this is what I think of their idea that all atheists must state that they have a belief in God in order to serve on those jurors. I feel that this is a crime against atheists in the United States and an obligation which is put upon them unfairly. And I certainly request, for example, that Governor Richards would make a statement as to whether or not she thinks atheists must believe in God, and the University of Texas Law School make a similar kind of statement, or the Supreme Court of the state of Texas, whether they feel that this is constitutional or not. It's too hot for my fingers, and it's probably too hot for the legal system. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, do you anticipate jail time because of your actions today?
I have no idea, but I have principles and convictions, and I stand by them. And wherever those principles and convictions lead me, they lead me.
What would you feel would be another way that instead of having to say, "So help me God," to be able to serve on a jury?
Well, we've had an example of that all over the United States, but recently in Cook County, Chicago, Illinois. Because about a year ago, our organization there said that they did not care to have anybody come in and give this kind of a statement. And the state of Texas also has an admonition in regard to persons who give testimony. And they say that you can only give statements under pains and penalty of perjury. If everybody gave under pains and penalty of perjury, atheists would not be singled out. We are singled out. We are given different treatment. We have been put in jail. We have been thrown out of the court. I have been manhandled down at the Travis County Jail when persons came and took me by the body and led me away because I would not state, quote, "So help me God." This is a violation of the 14th Amendment. I think all persons must be required to do what I am required to do, or alternately, what I am required to do should be spanned out so that everyone does it. There would be no difficulty for anybody in the world if pains and penalty of perjury were used, as it should be. It's secular, has absolutely nothing to do with religion at all, and it's the only way to go.
You fought some lengthy and costly battles.
Indeed I have.
Are you prepared to fight this battle as lengthy and costly as you have in the past?
Yes, indeed I am. Anybody can send a check to this address. It is lengthy and it is costly. It's costly emotionally, psychologically. It's costly to our organization. In funds, it's costly because we are taken away from our primary thrust, which is for church-state separation battles, etc. When we are put in a beleaguered position, and we become the defendants in an action. Any other? And that was that. The noise that you heard there toward the end of that was another television station coming in to the American Atheist headquarters, which is where this was filmed. This means that this was shown on all four of the television stations here in Austin, Texas, including the 3 network stations. It was picked up by the Austin American-Statesman newspaper, of course, and by Associated Press, and was run throughout the country, and we know that there was heavy coverage of it, particularly in Texas, with Houston and Dallas, each newspaper reporting it. I was, of course, going to cover myself in relationship to this, so I had pre-hired the most famous and most capable civil libertarian attorney in the state of Texas to take up my defense if anything had happened. But it's about 10 days later, and nothing has happened yet, except, of course, that I burnt this and refused to appear for the jury duty. John? Oh, I think that what we want is Dr. Ide now to read the press release that we had accompanying this. Sometimes we get out of order.
But you did good. The press release reads as follows. It was dated the 23rd of November, 1990. Madalyn OHair, founder of American Atheist, who has been called for jury duty in Travis County on November 27, 1990, invites the media to a photo opportunity for a summons burning event at the American Atheist General Headquarters at 2:00 p.m. on Monday, November 26, 1990. Mrs. OHair and American Atheists have been fighting the unconscionable legal obligation of atheists being forced to recite an oath, "So help me God," in order to qualify for jury service. TRCP Rules 226 and 236, which John had written earlier, during the last 20 years. There is currently in the federal appellate system the case of Robin Murray OHair, her daughter, who was charged with contempt of court, forcibly taken to jail, strip searched, cold water showered, deprived of her clothing, including her shoes, and incarcerated with felons in the Travis County Jail when she refused to take the "So Help Me God" oath in a Travis County court in December of 1988. Recently, John Murray, her son, who had sued following his expulsion from a Travis County court because he was an atheist, lost a federal court suit when the Supreme Court of the United States, on its first day in session in November 1990, upheld a lower court decision that atheists and everyone else have neither a constitutional right or a vested interest to serve on a jury, that the phrase "So help me God" is incidental to the secular purpose of conferring an atmosphere of formality on the jury deliberations by requiring the oath, and that the demand for all to reveal their religion when summoned is a benefit to the attorney's exercise of jury strikes. Mrs. OHair, in burning her jury summons, will ask that all atheists everywhere in Texas take one of the three actions. 1. Join her in a similar protest when they receive a summons for jury duty. 2. Simply fail or refuse to appear for jury duty when summoned. Or 3. Appear for jury duty and refuse to either swear or affirm, "So help me God." All atheists in Texas have legal sanction for such protests under the federal appellate court ruling Murray versus Travis County District Court and Jim Maddox, Attorney General of the state of Texas, which said, in quote, "The district court determined that the right to serve on a jury is not a constitutionally protected one, and we agree."
Well, of course, when I got into the jury summons burning there, I forgot to note that these are the three things that I wanted all the Texans to possibly do with me. But I do implore you now that if you are summoned for jury duty, don't go. You are not covered. If you are brought into a court and a jury is brought to hear your case, all atheists will be excluded. So why should you participate in something that is a Jim Crow setup for the state of Texas? John, you have something extra to say, too.
Well, I wanted to make another point. In the Constitution of the state of Texas itself, there is already a section that lays out a truth-telling formula for witnesses, which is different. If you are called as a witness or somebody is called in a witness for or against you in a case that you are involved in the courts in the state of Texas, for an oath, and that one of the things that we have said in all of our federal litigation on this and all of our state litigation is, if the Constitution of the state of Texas already has a secular oath that a juror may take, why not just have this same oath
Extended to
witness, I'm sorry, I said a juror, that a witness may take, why not have this extended to a juror? And that's in Article 1, Section 5 of the Constitution of the state of Texas. It says, "No person shall be disqualified to give evidence in any of the courts of the state on account of his religious opinions or for the want of any religious beliefs," that is, atheists. "But all oaths or affirmations shall be administered in the mode most binding upon the conscience, and shall be taken subject to the pains and penalties of perjury." And that's all. There's nothing in there about God or gods or "so help me God" or anything else. Any atheist could go and take either one of those jury oaths according to their knowledge of the pains and penalties of perjury without evoking God. The problem is that both of those oaths are statutory and have statutorily "so help me God" endings in them, so that the judge is not allowed to give them anything but the "so help me God" ending. It's kind of a catch-22. Even if a local judge wanted to give them the alternative oath, they couldn't, because then they would be improperly sworn, and a sharp attorney might be able to say later on, "This person that's on my jury was improperly sworn, they didn't take the statutory oath, I want a mistrial declared." So that
Well,
there are all kind of complications here. But if
we
an
have
oath
another-
already exists in the Constitution, it's secular, why not use it?
We have another problem here, because many of the judges are saying, well, the law is one thing, but what I say is the law. And several times when I have been called for jury duty, or when my daughter, Robin Murray OHair, has been called for jury duty, and other atheists, both officers of our organization and personnel who work in our office. The judge quite frequently will say to them, I will give you a special thing that I am about to make up right now. Well, he can't do that, because if he can with impunity ignore a rule of civil procedure and say, I'm not going to use that, how do I know that he's going to use any of the other rules of civil procedure? He could say, well, I'm not going to use those either. What is to bind him in his position as of judge if he can, as I say, with impunity, pick out what he wants to follow and ignore everything else that he wants to follow? Supposing he says, well, I've decided that there will be 6 jurors instead of 12. Does he have a right to do that simply because I am the law when he is the judge? No, there's no way that he can do that. The other thing is that the situation always is that in Travis County here, that about 100, 150, sometimes 200 people are called to jury duty. And when they are called, the bailiff gets up, or the clerk, and says, all rise, we're going to take the oath. In order to stop from taking the oath, you must say something. You must say, hey, I don't want to take this God oath. And when you do, you are singled out, you are set apart, you have everybody looking at you, you have mutterings of look at the communist or the fag, and you have this going on while you're trying to say to the judge, I don't want to take this oath. That is, you are being treated differently. 200 people are in there. You are the one that is selected out, and the 14th Amendment of the Constitution of the United States says everybody has to be treated equally. You're not treated equally when you are selected out and given dressing down by the judge in front of a couple hundred people.
This is why one of the suggestions that we made along the way to the federal courts was that even if they would not go constitutionally as far as they should go, by declaring the Texas oaths unconstitutional and saying that there should be a secular alternative, or perhaps the alternative that's already in the Texas Constitution, that the federal court should at least order that every time a Texas judge has a jury group there to impanel, that the judge would say to everybody there, hey, anybody who doesn't want to take an oath under God that can take an alternative or can take an affirmation before they swear the group in, and let everybody be separately sworn that wouldn't want to take the God oath, but at least have the judge say that up front. As even an interim solution, maybe on the way to the full constitutional solution, but even that the court would have nothing absolutely to do with. And it's interesting,
but that violates the 14th Amendment too, and we were willing to try to do that just as an interim thing.
But even as we sit here in Texas struggling with this, a city, for example, as big as Chicago, Illinois, Cook County, in Chicago, they swear the jurors in because the panels are so large that they swear them in with a film, a little movie that they show and they repeat after what's being said. And that used to end in So Help Me God until just about a year ago when some atheists in Chicago protested.
From our organization.
From American Atheists, and it was changed so that now the film doesn't have the So Help Me God on the end. Well, if Chicago, Illinois can change, which dwarfs the city of Austin in population, then why can't something be done in Texas?
And we'll probably get back to this in another program. Meanwhile, please remember that religion has caused more misery for all of humankind in every era of history, more so than any other idea. We write about this a lot in the American Atheist magazine. You see it here. And if you want a free sample copy of it, please write to the address which will appear on the screen. And we'll be very happy to send to you that American Atheist magazine. Meanwhile, we'll be with you next week, same day of the week, probably same time, same station. Thank you for listening. Thank you, John. Thank you, Martin.